This is the first time I've ever done something like this, like a vlog slash podcast. And I'm excited because I love talking about mental health and I also love talking about gymnastics. So this is a perfect opportunity for me to do those two things, the two things I really, really love, and I can combine them and talk about them together. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I work in mental health. I have for many, many years. And I'm also a major mega gymnastics fan. Used to be a gymnast and I was a gymnastics coach for a while as well. I follow the sport closely. And I thought it would be interesting to see if we can do a therapist take on some of the things that have happened not only with USA Gymnastics in recent years, but even up until now in recent days, some of the things that we're seeing online between some gymnasts and some people in other sports as well. I just want to talk about the some of the things that have happened that have led up to what is happening now. And most of you, if you're gymnastics fans, you obviously know that there was a huge scandal with USAG right around the 2016 Olympics. Lots of stuff came out. It was horrifying, and a lot of healing needed to happen. And a lot of healing still needs to happen. It's not, healing doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, and everyone heals differently at a different pace, rate. It's not a straight line. It's windy and goes all over the place. But having said that, I think it's important to bring in a therapist viewpoint or perspective on some of the things that we're seeing. And most recently, what I'm talking about is the online feud between Riley Gaines and Simone Biles. Everyone probably knows about it if you follow gymnastics. It turned into a huge political argument, and I'm not here to talk about politics. I really don't care how you feel one way or the other. You can feel however you wish. I have no judgment. You can support whoever you want. That's not the point of this. I think it kind of went a little far into the political side of things, and I don't know how that got derailed, but just breaking it down, I think that what we're seeing is, in large part, a trauma response from some people who've been through some trauma. And without getting into a lot of details, because it's not my story to tell, I think it's fair to say, because the whole world knows, that there are certain gymnasts who lived through an era of a toxic culture and a lot of bad things happened. And Simone Biles has spoken very openly about it. I think other gymnasts as well have been very vocal and open about their experiences. And the hope is that things are better now. And honestly, I have no idea if they're better or not. I'm not on the inside of USAG, and I also don't know any of these athletes personally. Um, and to be clear, I'm not providing any kind of service here. I'm not doing therapy. If anything, it's reverse therapy. I'm talking nonstop and not listening whatsoever. But I do want to hear what people have to say after we wrap up here. I want to know, what questions you might have. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. We saw some things online that are screaming trauma response. At least they are from my perspective. I don't know what really started it. I know that Riley tweeted something about a transgender youth who won a championship, and she made a comment about that. And I don't know if that was her intent was to try to gain support or to embarrass the child. I don't know. I have no idea. Um, and like I said, she's free to feel however she wants to feel, and so is everyone else. The issue I personally had with it, and I'm going to try to mostly keep my personal opinions out of this, but the person in question that she tweeted about is actually a minor. That's why I refer to that person as a child. Granted, they're 17, it still doesn't matter. So to me, calling out a minor in a public way that's not very nice was a mistake. In my opinion, I don't feel like that was done in good faith, or maybe she just didn't it didn't occur to her that it could be taken that way. I have no idea. Simone reacted and said some things as well in response, and again, not with politics, but Simone basically shot back that she was calling Riley basically a bully for calling out this kid. Or that's at least how I took it. Now, I haven't talked to either one of them. I have no idea. So I'm just saying, from my lens, that's kind of how it seems to be. People took this and ran with it in a whole bunch of different directions. It blew up. The amount of hate and anger and awfulness that's being spewed in both directions is actually just a bit heartbreaking. Um, on Simone's side of things, this is a person who's lived through some intense and immense trauma. I don't know where she is on her healing path. I know that she is doing the work because she's been open about that. I don't know anything about Riley, so it's hard to say if that's coming from a place of experience or any kind of trauma. What I can say is anytime a person reacts in a way that is exaggerated, I guess for lack of a better word, it usually means that it's because it's triggering something in that person. So whatever is going on back and forth between those two, clearly they were both triggered. To Simone's credit, she apologized for getting personal, and I respect that. I think, again, she was coming from a place of some emotion or some place that really, really triggered her. So after that, Michaela Skinner kind of joined in, and I'm not really completely sure where or why she chose now to make some of these comments that she's making about Simone. Um, she's come out and said that Simone's a bully and she's endured things for years, and that makes me very sad to hear that. It also makes me very curious as to what does she mean? Like, what has Simone done? Um, she tweeted her support for Riley, and that's fine. But everyone has their right to their opinion. But I don't really completely understand the accusation of bullying, and especially given the fact that it's without context or examples. So I'm curious, Michaela, what's going on? Can you elaborate just a bit so people can understand? To me, it looks like there's now 3 people who are reacting in ways that are a bit exaggerated. And as that happens, everyone else jumps in and reacts the same way with anger and picking sides and calling names and saying some of the most ridiculous, awful things about other people they don't even know online. And that really kind of like makes me scratch my head a little bit. Like I don't understand that. And from a therapist lens, it looks to me right now like the whole world is unhealed from something, because everyone's just gone off the chain with these reactions. And it's it's interesting, but it's also, like I said, it's heartbreaking. um, I wish that I could really provide a full explanation as to what that is. I think it goes without saying that we are in a bit of a historic, divisive time in our country where people feel very strongly on both sides. So maybe that has something to do with it as well. So as far as the trauma goes, I I do feel like people do not take into consideration what other people are experiencing or what they have experienced, and they're very quick to make comments or judgments based on not a lot of information. I do think that Michaela was definitely traumatized through her time on the national team. She did end up going to the Olympics and winning a silver medal, and largely because Simone had pulled out of that final. But I know that for years she really worked at getting to that goal of the Olympics, and it really didn't pan out the way that she wanted to, either time, either in 16 or in 2020, 2021. So all those years in between of all that training and um, getting sick and just like COVID, which affected everyone, that stuff kind of adds up. And throw in there the changes in national team coordinators and the predecessor of the predecessor, um, in some of the things that happened at those training camps. um, that has to be traumatic for anyone who experienced it. um, Simone, on the other hand, has not only that, but she was front and center, in the spotlight when this big scandal broke out in 2016, right around the Rio Olympics, or right there after. And she was the face of the Olympic Games. Like, she came in there, people expected her to win everything, and she basically did. But then all this stuff came out, and she's trying to navigate it and heal. But can you imagine coming to realize that something terrible has happened to you, and then trying to process it and trying to heal from it in front of the entire world? That is mind blowing to me. I can't imagine how painful and difficult that would be. And that's what Simone has faced, and not just back in 2016, 17, but really year after year after year after year. Um, and she most certainly has experienced trauma, and I don't compare one person's trauma to another, because it doesn't work like that. Everyone has a different experience. Everyone has a different healing process. But it's fair to mention too that Simone had early childhood trauma that she had to navigate through, and that's a whole separate conversation. The reality is, it it really seems to me like we are looking at people's emotions, and their emotions are like exaggerated, like that magnifying glass is on these unhealed things or unhealed experiences, and that's why they look so big and they get so ugly sometimes. Because when we're not healed and we're not really sure why we're feeling what we're feeling, sometimes things come out in ways that we really don't want them to. Um, Truly, if someone is able to look at themselves and really take a step back and be like, I don't know why I reacted that way, or really get curious about why they reacted a certain way, that's kind of when the healing journey can begin in that growth of self. And I do feel like Simone has been very open about her journey. And she's not finished because there is no like finish line. It can be an ongoing process throughout life, healing from things that have happened. So essentially, I just want to take a minute to throw this out there that I truly believe clinically that we're seeing things that are coming from places of people who are not healed completely. And, you know, we really need to kind of be respectful of each other and not be jumping on sides and saying awful things to not only these people who are already in the spotlight, but to other people who are showing their support for one of them or the other. It doesn't make sense to fuel the fire and be hateful. And sometimes we do have to clap back a little bit to kind of tell people that we're serious or that we're setting a boundary. But there's a way to do that that's a bit more respectful. And it's just disappointing seeing some of the things that I've read online. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about what trauma looks like a little bit and how it's different from person to person, and it can come out in many, many different ways. And maybe that's just a different way to look at some of the things that have happened, and especially recently with these tweets and this anger and this feud. So I hope that maybe helped a little bit, and that maybe people can take a beat before they jump down someone's throat in anger, and maybe just be a little bit more mindful about what we're saying and how that might be perceived to another person. That's about all I have for today. I do want to know what you all think. I want to know if you see through this a bit more, kind of like how I'm trying to see it from a different perspective, or if you have any of your own opinions about what you think might be going on that's more than meets the eye. And ask any questions that you might have as well, and I'll answer them. If you like this content and want to hear more about gymnastics and more about mental health and how it relates to gymnastics, please like and subscribe. And I'll be getting another video out in the near future. I'm actually going to be reviewing Amy Borman's book. I just finished it and it's really good. And I want to share my thoughts on that as well. So